for visiting my channel, MythoReligio. MythoReligio is a series of books about religious comparison studies between the stories in Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism, directly from their sacred books and the purpose is to retrace the prehistory of humanity, since I am not fully satisfied with either the explanations from the point of view of creationists nor evolutionists. There are so many myths. Then you are on the right channel. In this book series, I will also analyze about the prehistory of humanity from the archaeological and other alternative theories, such as the ancient alien theories and Atlantis or between all religious stories and even mythologies. And surprisingly, some of them are in accordance or even beyond modern science that have been proven as correct. Must have come from the same source. And all these religious stories and mythologies, although heavily jumbled up, are of our common ancestors. This mega story is quite mine, as it is more fascinating than our imagination. If you have watched the earlier videos in this channel, I believe you can see some of the similarities too. If you haven't and you truly want to do a religious comparative study, I suggest that you do so. The best way to do a comprehensive religious study via this channel is by watching the videos starting from number 1 you will see a clear pattern. For deeper analysis that I cannot share in this platform due to its sensitive nature, that are available in ebook format that can be found in my website www.mythoreligio.com or the physical books at Amazon in color or black and white version. In this video, I'm continuing the story from the Norse mythology. That is caused by the killing of the ice giant god Ymir by his own descendants, i.e. the gods Fili. Then, like the story of the use Ymir's body to create Midgard or Middle-Yard, i.e. the earth, to be the home of men at the center of Ginnungagap. Above the Jotunheim, his flesh became the earth. Mountains were erected. His teeth and bone fragments became stones. From his hair grew trees and maggots. His flesh became the race of dwarfs. The god set Ymir's skull above Ginnungagap and made the sky. The names East, West, North, and South. Odin then created winds by placing one of the Jotun's Belgamir's sons in the form of an eagle at the end of the earth. He cast Ymir's brain into the wind and it became clouds. Next, the sons of Bor took sparks from Muspelheim and dispersed them throughout Ginnungagap, thus creating stars and light for the heaven and the earth. At the same time as Midgard and Jotunheim were created, Odin and his brothers created a home for themselves. Odin named his home Asgard, which means the home of Rik, his wife. Rainbow bridge called Bifrost. Vili and Ve made their home to the east of Asgard and named it Vanaheim. finally, in total, there are 9 worlds created, each existing around a holy world tree. The 9 worlds, or New Heimar in Old Norse, are the homelands of the various types of beings found in the pre-Christian worldview of the Norse and other Germanic peoples. They are held in the branches and roots of the world tree Yggdrasil, although none of the sources for our present knowledge of Norse mythology and religion describe exactly wherein and around Yggdrasil trees they are located. Any and all modern images of the worlds arranged around Yggdrasil are by definition speculative and unverifiable. The existence of 9 worlds is mentioned in passing in one poem in the Poetic Edda. However, no source gives a list of exactly which worlds comprise the 9. Based on the kinds of beings found in Norse mythology and the reference to their homelands in various literary sources, however, 1. Niflheim, the world of fog and mist. Niflheim means mist home or mist world, is the darkest and coldest region in the world according to Norse mythology. Niflheim is the first of the 9 worlds, and it is placed in the northern region of Ginnungagap. Boiling spring, and is protected by the huge dragon called Nidhugg. Elivagar, the ice waves, are the rivers which existed in Niflheim at the beginning of the world. They were the streams floating out of Helgemir. The water from Elivagar flowed down the mountains to the plains of Ginnungagap. Layer. This is the reason that it is very cold in the northern plains. As the world tree Yggdrasil started to grow, it stretched one of its 3 large roots far into Niflheim and drew water from the spring Helgemir. 2. Muspelheim, the land of fire. Muspelheim was created far to the south of the world in Norse mythology. Muspelheim is a burning hot place filled home of the fire giants, fire demons, and ruled by the giant Ragnarok, the final battle, the final destiny of the gods. During Ragnarok, Surd will then attack Asgard, the home of the gods, and turn it into a flaming inferno. 3. Asgard, home of the gods. In the middle of the world, high up in the sky, is Asgard. It is Odin is the ruler of Asgard and the chief of the Aesir. Odin is married to Frigg, and she is the queen of the Aesir. Inside the gates of Asgard is Valhalla, sort of warrior heaven. It is the place where the warriors go to Folkvanger and welcomed by the goddess Freya. 4. Midgard, home of the humans. Midgard, meaning Middle Earth, is located in the Midgard is surrounded by a huge ocean that is impassable. The ocean is occupied by a huge sea serpent, the Midgard serpent. The Midgard serpent is so huge that it encircles the whole world entirely, and biting its own tail. Giants, also called Jotuns. The Jotuns are the sworn enemies of the Aesir. Jotun Because of this, the giants lived mostly from the fish from the rivers and the animals from the forest. because there is no fertile land in Jotunheim. The giants and the Aesir are constantly fighting, but it also happens from time to time that love affairs will occur. Jotunheim is separated from Asgard by the river Iving, which never freezes over. 6. Vanaheim. In one version it is said that the Vanir are the children of the gods Vili. Vanir are masters of sorcery and magic. They are also widely acknowledged for their talent to predict the future. 7. Alfheim, home of the Light Elves. Alfheim is located right next to Asgard in the heaven. The Light Elves are beautiful creatures. They are considered the guardian angels. The Light Elves are minor gods of nature and fertility. They can help or hinder humans with their knowledge of magical powers. They also often delivered an inspiration to art or music. 8. Svartalheim, home of the dwarves. The dwarves live under the rocks, fields. The dwarves are masters of craftsmanship. In the Bible, hell is a realm for the sinners. In the Norse religion, hell is the name, i.e., all the dishonorable dead, thieves, murderers, and those the gods and goddesses feel is not brave enough to go to Valhalla. Hell is a very grim and cold place, and any person who arrives here will never feel joy and happiness again. The goddess Hel will, which will be the end of the world. With the exception of Midgard, these are all primarily invisible worlds, although they can at times become manifested in particular aspects of the visible world. For example, Jotunheim overlaps with the physical wilderness, and Asgard with the sky. While we don't know what exactly the spiritual or magical significance of the number 9 was, it is clear that this number had such a significance for the pre-Christian Germanic peoples. The War of the Gods. So in Norse mythology, the gods and goddesses usually belong to one of two tribes, the Aesir and the Vanir. As mentioned previously, there is a version that explains that the Aesirs are the children of the god Odin, while the Vanirs are of the gods Vili and Ve. Throughout most of the Norse tales, deities from the two tribes get along fairly easily, and it's hard to pin down firm distinctions between the two groups. But there was a time when that wasn't the case. The Vanir goddess Freya was always the foremost practitioner of the art Seidr, the most terribly powerful kind of magic. Like historical Seidr practitioners, she wandered from town to town plying her craft for hire, under the name Asgard, the home of the Aesir. Taken by her powers and zealously sought her services. Kin loyalty and obedience to the law were being pushed aside by the selfish desires they sought to fulfill with shortcomings. The Aesir called her Gulveik, meaning gold greed, and attempted to murder her. 3 times they tried. She was reborn from the ashes. Because of this, the Aesir and Vanir came to hate and fear one another, and these hostilities erupted into war. The Aesir fought by the rules of plain combat, with weapons and brute force, while the Vanir used the subtler means of magic. The war went on for some time, with both sides gaining the upper hand by turns. Eventually, the two tribes of divinities became weary of fighting and decided to call a truce. The creation of humans. There are several versions concerning the creation of humans. In one version, the three gods Odin, Vili, and Ve created the human race from the same slain giant they had used to create. In another version, they created human when they saw 2 tree trunks or logs of an ash and an elm trees had been washed up on the beach. Ve and Vili filled up the hollow trunk of the tree with golden sand, and Odin breathed the spirit of life into the dead trees, and they became humans. It became a woman. The sun and the moon. At first the world was a dark and gloomy place, even with its great open skies. So the gods created the sun and the moon. The sun and the moon were fixed in the heavens at first, unmoving and both visible together whether it was night or day. Then one day, 2 Jotun children were ordered by their grandfather to fetch water from a well sacred to the gods. So the gods made the moon snatch them and made them ride and steer the chariots of the sun, namely Sol. Interestingly, it is and the moon, Mani. The girl steered the chariot of the sun and the boy the moon. 2 wolves, Skoll and Hati, continued chasing the sun and the moon until they would finally swallow both the sun and the moon during. Herewith, I'm ending this video. Next week, I will share more stories about the main gods in the Norse mythology and the Ragnarok event. Thank you for watching and hope to see you next week.